My wife's sister tried to ruin our marriage with a vicious lie, and my wife believed her. Until the truth finally came out and exposed everything, shaking our relationship and family to the core. A harsh truth surfaced, and by then, it was too late. I'm a 33-year-old man, a project manager for a moderately sized construction firm in Austin, Texas. My income is respectable, around $95,000 annually plus bonuses. I'm not wealthy, but my life is comfortable. For 5 years, I've been married to Sarah, 32, and we've been together for 7. We first met at a University of Texas tailgate, introduced by mutual friends. She was studying marketing, and I, civil engineering. Sarah is bright and diligent, and we share everything equally. We've both been saving, envisioning a home in the suburbs, and perhaps starting a family soon. Our lifestyle is modest, devoid of extravagant luxuries. We drive dependable vehicles, reside in a decent apartment complex just off South Lamar, and our biggest indulgence is an annual camping road trip to Big Bend National Park. However, this narrative isn't about Sarah. It's about her younger sister, Brittany, 28, who is, without question, the most toxic, materialistic, and self-absorbed individual I've ever encountered. To paint a picture, Brittany has never maintained consistent employment as an adult. She's drifted between various retail positions at the Domain and downtown restaurants, invariably fired within weeks for tardiness, arguing with patrons, or simply not appearing for work. Her longest job lasted 6 weeks at a local coffee shop, solely because the manager clearly favored her. Rather than pursuing a conventional career, Brittany devotes her days to cultivating her Instagram profile and scrolling through Bumble, seeking her Prince Charming, meaning any man with a 6-figure income who falls for her facade. Her bio describes her as an entrepreneur and lifestyle influencer, but her supposed enterprise involves peddling overpriced skincare from some multi-level marketing scheme. I've never witnessed her make a single sale, yet she constantly posts about her hustle. At 28, she still lives rent-free with her parents in their Round Rock home. She drives a 2016 Nissan Altima her father bought her, though she insists it's temporary until she acquires the white Range Rover Evoque she desires, claiming it's the model all the real influencers drive. Her closet is filled with cheap imitations from fast fashion websites, clearly counterfeit Gucci and Chanel bags, misspelled of course, and discount store purses she tries to pass off as high-end. Despite this, she uploads photos with these items using hashtags like #NowBlessed or #AustinLiving, as if she were a celebrity, when in reality she depends entirely on her parents. The family dynamic is entirely skewed. Brittany is the favored child, seemingly incapable of wrongdoing. Sarah, conversely, is the dependable daughter, always burdened with cleaning up others' messes. During family dinners, Brittany dominates conversations. If Sarah attempts to discuss her work or any pertinent subject, Brittany cuts in to talk about some tech bro she met on an app, or to lament the difficulty of securing brand partnerships as an influencer. Her mother consistently supports her. If Brittany makes disparaging remarks about Sarah's practical attire, or calls her life boring, her mother simply chuckles and says things like, "Oh, Brittany's just very honest," or, "She has such an eye for style." I've seen the expression on Sarah's face in those moments, a mix of hurt and quiet acceptance. She never defends herself. She's been trained to endure it silently. The first significant warning sign occurred 2 years ago, on Sarah's birthday. We dined at a pleasant restaurant on Rainey Street, nothing excessive, but certainly not inexpensive, to celebrate her promotion. The entire family was present. Instead of congratulating her, Brittany spent the evening complaining about the terrible lighting for her Instagram stories and asking the waiter if he knew any single venture capitalists. When the bill arrived, everyone began reaching for their wallets, except Brittany, who remained absorbed in her phone. Her father paid her portion without question, as always. Sarah later confided that this was typical. Brittany never contributes financially because she doesn't have money, though, mysteriously, she always has enough for new lash extensions and acrylic nails. The very first time I met Brittany was at a family 4th of July barbecue. From that moment, I recognized she was trouble. Sarah had informed her family that I worked as a project manager in construction, which Brittany apparently interpreted as either me being a blue-collar worker or a secret real estate magnate. Her initial question wasn't a pleasant greeting or anything similar. She scrutinized me and blurted out, "So, what kind of construction? Like, tract homes or something bigger, like custom builds?" When I explained that I managed commercial projects, such as office buildings and retail centers, I saw the mental gears turning. "Oh, so you deal with a lot of developers and investors, right? That must bring in good money, huh? Like solid 6 figures?" Sarah flushed with embarrassment but said nothing. I answered vaguely, but Brittany continued to prod all afternoon. She inquired about my truck, my apartment, my savings, and even if I had immediate plans to buy a house. It felt like an interrogation by an undisguised gold digger. And on top of that, she discussed her career as if she were a mogul. She spent 20 minutes detailing her brand and how she intended to achieve financial independence in 2 years. She showed me her Instagram profile with barely 3 posts promoting some obscure energy drink, each with 15 likes. She declared, "I only date men who understand ambition. Most guys are intimidated by successful women like me." I nearly choked on my brisket. This unemployed 26-year-old, living with her parents, genuinely believed she was too successful for any man. Over the years, I only encountered her during holidays or significant events, which was a relief. But I began noticing peculiar patterns. She consistently tried to sit near me, would ask Sarah about my work schedule, or when I'd be at a particular family gathering, and in group photos, she somehow always ended up beside me. Her comments were subtle but inappropriate. "Sarah was lucky to find a man with a stable career," she'd say, staring intently at me. "Oh, I wish I could find someone who worked as hard as you," with that look that made my skin crawl. Sarah didn't seem to notice or chose to disregard it. Every time I mentioned her sister's peculiar behavior, she'd say I was exaggerating, or that Brittany was just being friendly, because she didn't have many friends, and no, she doesn't. No one in their right mind would tolerate someone so toxic. Last spring, I received a promotion to senior project manager, accompanied by a substantial pay raise. My salary jumped from $95,000 to $125,000, plus bonuses. Sarah and I were ecstatic because it meant we could finally begin seriously searching for a house. After my promotion, we decided to celebrate by trading in my old Ford F-150 for a 2023 Chevrolet Silverado. Nothing extravagant, but definitely a significant upgrade from my previous vehicle. The first family event after the promotion was Sarah's mother's birthday. That's when everything began to unravel with her younger sister, Brittany. Brittany arrived dressed in a way that drew attention for all the wrong reasons. It looked more suitable for a night out on 6th Street than a family dinner. As soon as she saw the truck, her eyes lit up, and she went straight for it. "Is this yours?" she asked, caressing the hood as if it were a prized thoroughbred. "Must have cost you," she added with a feigned smile, "like $70,000. It didn't cost nearly that much, but I simply replied that it was a work upgrade. Big mistake. That comment gave her an opening to begin interrogating me with excessively personal questions. How much the raise was, if I'd been given company stock options, if we were planning to buy a house in Westlake soon. All delivered with a tone disguised as interest, though it felt more like she was sniffing out money. While taking selfies with my truck, she made a comment loud enough for Sarah to hear. "Successful men deserve someone who understands what ambition entails. Not everyone can handle being with someone who has real drive." I observed Sarah's face tighten, but instead of confronting her, she changed the subject. That was another warning sign. She was starting to rationalize her sister's actions. From that point on, Brittany's social media scrutiny intensified. She started following me everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and even TikTok, though I barely use it. Each time I declined her requests, she'd send new ones. My LinkedIn profile views skyrocketed, clearly because she was constantly checking it. Then she started appearing at my job sites. The first time, she claimed she was just in the neighborhood and had seen my truck. The site was in a developing commercial zone near the airport, far from anywhere she might have a legitimate reason to be. She arrived with a Starbucks latte, smiling as if it were a special gift. "I thought you might need some energy for all that hard work," she said, her top a bit too low-cut, leaning over the tailgate of the truck very deliberately. She asked what time I finished work, if I needed help organizing things, if I didn't feel lonely working such long hours. It all felt like a scene from a bad reality show. I thanked her for the coffee, but declined it, saying I had to return to my team. Still, she lingered for another 10 minutes, asking me questions about the project, my crew, and my schedule. As she departed, she remarked, "You work too much. You should let someone take care of you a little." That night, I informed Sarah about it. Her reaction puzzled me. "She's probably just trying to get on your good side so you'll convince me to let her come on our Big Ben trip this year." According to Sarah, Brittany had been pestering them for weeks to join us. Sarah had already told her no because we desired alone time, and also because the thought of sharing a campsite with her for a week was unbearable. Sarah believed Brittany's apparent kindness was part of a strategy to make me feel guilty and agree to let her come. I firmly told her that wasn't the case, that she was flirting, and it was becoming increasingly obvious. Sarah laughed it off. "Brittany wants to marry a tech millionaire or an oil tycoon. You're a construction manager. You're not on her radar. That sentence stung more than it should have, but I decided not to argue. A while later, Sarah traveled to a marketing conference in Chicago for a week. She typically does this annually for professional development. I was looking forward to a quiet week, ordering Franklin barbecue takeout, catching up on shows, and working on some DIY projects around the apartment. On Wednesday night, around 8:30, the doorbell rang. I was home, relaxed in sweats after a long day on site. I thought it might be a DoorDash driver or the upstairs neighbor who sometimes locks himself out. Big mistake. I opened the door without looking through the peephole. Brittany was standing there, wearing a tight black dress that barely covered the essentials, full makeup like she was going clubbing, and holding a large bag of Thai food from a popular East Austin spot. "Surprise," she said, walking into my apartment, without waiting for permission. "I brought dinner. I figured you'd be sick of bachelor chow." She had enough food to feed an army. Pad see ew, green curry, spring rolls, pineapple fried rice. All of that easily cost over $80. Too much for someone unemployed, unless you anticipate something in return. I told her it wasn't appropriate, that Sarah wasn't here, and she shouldn't be here either. But she completely ignored my comment and began arranging the containers on the coffee table. "Don't be such a square. I'm just being nice. We're family, right?" She sat on the sofa and patted the spot next to her. "Come on, eat with me. I brought your favorite. Sarah told me you love Thai food." The fact that she had spoken to Sarah about my tastes unsettled me. I remained standing. "I'm not hungry. Take this and go." Then her expression changed. She looked at me as if she couldn't believe I was rejecting her generous offer. "Seriously? I spent my own money on this expensive dinner, and you won't even sit with me? I didn't ask you to bring anything. I don't want you here." She moved closer, close enough for me to smell her overpowering floral perfume. "You know what your problem is? You're too loyal to my sister. She doesn't appreciate what she has." "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked. "Sarah takes you for granted," she said, touching my arm. "She's always busy, always thinking about her career. When was the last time she made you feel special? When did she really take care of you?" I took a step back, avoiding her touch. "My marriage is none of your business. I'm just saying there are women who know how to treat a man, who understand what a hardworking guy like you is worth." Her intention was crystal clear. I pointed to the door bluntly. "Get out of here now." Instead of leaving, she moved even closer and placed a hand on my chest. "Why are you resisting? I know how you look at me at family dinners. Don't pretend you've never thought about it." "I've never looked at you with anything other than annoyance," I replied firmly. "Get your hand off me." But she persisted, whispering as she pressed against me. "Sarah is 1,000 miles away. No one has to know. I can give you what she can't." That's when I lost it. I grabbed her wrist and pulled her hand off my chest. "Are you crazy? Get out of my house right now." She started laughing as if it were all some kind of game. "Relax," she said. "I'm just having fun." "God, you're so uptight." But her expression suddenly changed, morphing into a predatory look that made my stomach churn. "We're alone, and I spent a lot on this dinner. Don't you think you owe me something?" I went straight to the door, yanked it open, and yelled, "Out! Get out of my apartment now!" As she gathered her purse and the food containers she'd brought, she turned to me with an arrogant smirk. "You know where to find me when you get tired of playing house with my boring sister. I'll be waiting." I slammed the door so hard the frame vibrated. Immediately, I tried to call Sarah. It was already past 10 p.m. in Chicago, so she didn't answer. I left her a voicemail asking her to call me back as soon as possible, but I didn't want to explain everything over the phone. I spent the whole night trying to reach her, regretting not having recorded the conversation with Brittany. The more I thought about it, the more obvious it seemed how well planned everything was. She waited until Sarah was out of town, showed up at night when she knew we'd be alone, and brought expensive food to make it look like I had invited her. If I hadn't rejected her, she surely would have tried to seduce me, and then blackmail me with it. I finally managed to reach Sarah the next morning, but before I could say a single word, she was completely beside herself. "How could you do this? To my sister? She's devastated. She was just trying to do something nice for you." I felt my blood run cold. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Brittany called me crying at midnight. She told me everything." It turned out that barely an hour after leaving my apartment, Brittany had contacted Sarah and fed her a completely fabricated story. According to her, she had gone to bring me dinner because she felt bad that I was alone. But when she arrived, she found me acting strange. She claimed I complained that Sarah spent too much time away for work and that I felt lonely, that I invited her to sit on the sofa, made inappropriate comments about her clothes, and supposedly grabbed her hand trying to pull her into the bedroom, whispering, "Sarah doesn't have to know." She asserted she had to defend herself and threatened to scream to get me to let her go. She claimed to be traumatized, that she had never felt so uncomfortable. It was all a shameless fabrication, but she narrated it with such drama that she convinced Sarah, tears and exaggerated details like a professional actress. "She's my sister," Sarah yelled over the phone. "How could you try something like that with her?" I tried to stay calm and explain the truth, but she wouldn't let me speak. Every time I tried to give my side, she interrupted me with phrases like, "Brittany would never lie about something like this. Why would she make up such a horrible story?" "Sarah, think about it logically," I insisted. "Why would I suddenly try something with Brittany when I can barely tolerate her? You know what I think of her? None of this makes any sense." Her response crushed me. "I don't know. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a long time and only now got the nerve. She's prettier than me and doesn't work 60 hours a week." I was speechless. My wife, to whom I'd been married for 5 years, truly believed I had cheated on her with her unemployed, opportunistic sister, someone I had never shown the slightest interest in. "Do you really think I'm capable of that?" I asked. "I don't know what to think anymore," she replied coldly. Brittany had cried, saying I seemed like a completely different person. When Sarah returned from Chicago 3 days later, she didn't even come home. She went straight to her parents' house in Round Rock. She didn't answer my calls and only responded to my messages with phrases like, "I need time to process this. I can't even look at you." On the few occasions I managed to speak with her on the phone over the next 2 weeks, she was completely distant. To make matters worse, Brittany had also told her version to her parents, and now the whole family saw me as some kind of predator. Sarah kept repeating, "My whole family is disgusted. My father wants to come over and have a word with you." I reminded her of all the times I had told her about Brittany's inappropriate behavior. The constant social media stalking, the surprise visits to my job sites, her obvious flirting at family gatherings, but Sarah dismissed it all. "That's just Brittany," she said. "She's friendly with everyone. You're the one who misinterpreted everything as inappropriate." "So you think I've been making up her behavior for months?" I asked incredulously. "I think you convinced yourself she was interested in you, and when you made a move, she rejected you. Now you're trying to make her look like the bad guy," Sarah responded with a chilling coldness. It was at that moment I knew there was no going back. Sarah hadn't just believed Brittany's lies. She had constructed an entire narrative in which I was a twisted guy who had been fantasizing about her sister for months. After 3 weeks of enduring this tension, I decided to make one last attempt to talk to Sarah face to face, without Brittany interfering. I drove to her parents' house, hoping for a sincere conversation. Big mistake. As soon as Sarah's father opened the door, he started yelling at me that I wasn't welcome and that I should be ashamed of what I had done. Sarah's mother stood behind him, arms crossed, looking at me as if I were a threat. "You've got a lot of nerve coming here," her father said. "After what you did to Brittany?" "I didn't do anything to her," I replied firmly. "She lied to all of you." Sarah appeared in the doorway, looking at me as if I were a complete stranger. "What do you want?" she asked. "I want to talk to you without your family treating me like a criminal." "I have nothing to say to you," she said with a painful coldness. "Do you really not trust me after 7 years together? Do you really believe I'm capable of what Brittany accused me of?" I asked, my heart heavy. She held my gaze for a long moment, and then said simply, "I don't know who you are anymore." That was the end of it. I looked her in the eyes and said, "If you'd rather believe your lying, manipulative sister over your husband, then stay with her." And I left, knowing my marriage was over. The following week, I contacted a lawyer and filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. When Sarah received the papers, she sent me a very long message accusing me of running away, of not taking responsibility, and that she never imagined I was capable of something like this. I didn't respond. From then on, all communication went through my lawyer. But the unexpected happened. While the legal process was underway, the construction company I worked for was acquired by a large national corporation. As part of the deal, all senior team members received a retention bonus based on our project history and seniority. My bonus after taxes was $100,000. Combined with my savings and accumulated assets, I suddenly had nearly $250,000 in liquid cash. It wasn't a fortune that made me a millionaire, but it was enough to change my life completely. I didn't tell anyone except my lawyer and my accountant. I bought a small house in a quiet neighborhood in Cedar Park, paid in cash, upgraded my vehicle to a new Ford F-250, also paid in cash, and began exploring investment opportunities. The divorce was quick, since we didn't have children. I didn't fight over premarital assets. She received half of our joint savings and the Silverado. I kept my tools and work equipment. The bonus occurred after the separation, so Sarah never knew about that money. During the process, I heard through acquaintances that the family had completely sided with Brittany, treating her as if she had saved Sarah from an unfaithful husband. She reveled in the spotlight, posting vague updates on social media about protecting your own and standing up to toxic men. Meanwhile, Sarah wasn't doing well. Her marketing company had undergone cutbacks. Although she didn't lose her job, her salary was reduced, and she lost seniority. She was living in a tiny studio apartment on the other side of town, and was still driving the Silverado, which now had almost 185,000 miles on it, because she couldn't afford another car. Brittany, for her part, was still living with her parents, unemployed, posting provocative photos on Instagram, and looking for some savior on dating apps. About 8 months passed after the divorce was finalized. One day, I received a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Sarah. She was crying. "Please don't hang up," she said between sobs. "I know I don't deserve to talk to you, but I need to tell you something." I stayed on the line, curious to know what prompted her to call me after almost a year of silence. "I know the truth about Brittany now," she said, referring to what happened that night. It turns out Brittany had finally found her benefactor, a 52-year-old divorced tech sales guy named Gary, who owned some rental properties in Austin. He wasn't the billionaire she dreamed of, but he had money and was naive enough to believe her act. Brittany moved in with him immediately and started bragging on social media about her life of luxury. The problem was, this supposed luxury was limited to a 4-bedroom tract house in Pflugerville and dinners at chain restaurants like the Cheesecake Factory, nothing like the millionaire lifestyle she always promised herself. And that's where everything changed. Feeling secure with Gary, Brittany turned her back on her family. She told her parents they embarrassed her and that she could no longer associate with people who aren't on my level. She stopped attending family events and blocked Sarah on all her social media. When her father had to go to the emergency room for chest pains, which luckily turned out to be just severe anxiety, Brittany refused to go to the hospital because she was busy with Gary. Sarah begged her in tears to at least call her father, and Brittany's response was blunt. "I don't have time for your family drama." That's when Sarah started to see who her sister really was. But the final blow came weeks later when Sarah, at a coffee shop near her apartment, happened to overhear Brittany at a nearby table. She recognized her voice. She was talking to one of her few remaining friends, bragging about how she had gotten rid of Sarah's husband. "I played the victim completely," Brittany said between laughs. "I told Sarah her pathetic husband had tried to make a move on me, and she bought it all. Who was she going to believe? Her sweet little sister, or some guy who works in construction?" Sarah remained silent, stunned, as Brittany continued talking without any remorse. She confessed that it had all been premeditated, that she had decided to interfere in my life purely out of envy. She was jealous of her sister's stability, of the relationship we had, and of the quiet life we led together. She said she had been trying to provoke me for months, trying to seduce me. But since it didn't work because I rejected her, she decided to get revenge by inventing everything to ruin my marriage. "And the best part," Brittany added, "is that now Sarah is alone, broke, and I'm with someone who treats me like a queen. She deserves it for always thinking she was better than me." Sarah, without Brittany noticing, had started recording the conversation on her phone. When her sister finally realized, she stormed out furiously. Minutes later, Sarah called me crying. "I'm so sorry," she repeated endlessly. "I shouldn't have doubted you. I failed you. I believed her instead of trusting you. I ruined everything." She sent me the recording. Hearing Brittany mock what she had done not only enraged me, it also confirmed what I always knew. Finally, I had proof. When Sarah finished apologizing, I asked her, "What do you expect from me now?" "I know this might be a lot to ask," she replied, "but I was hoping we could try again. I don't deserve it, I know, but I love you and I miss you. And now I realize what a huge mistake I made." I let her talk for a few more minutes. She told me she wanted to get us back, that she was willing to repair the damage. When she finished, I was direct. "Sarah, I appreciate your words, but that chapter is closed. I don't want to get back together with you." She cried harder. She asked me to think about it, to remember what we had built, that we could get that back. "No, Sarah. What you did can't be fixed with words. You chose to believe the worst version of me without any proof. That's not something you forget or forgive. But now I know the truth. And I know another truth. I told her about my retention bonus at work, about the new house, the financial stability I had finally achieved. I heard her sharp intake of breath on the other end of the phone, as if she suddenly understood what she had lost. Are you saying you're rich now? I wouldn't say rich, but I live more comfortably than when I was spending my days covering your expenses and putting up with your family. She was silent for a few seconds. Then she said in a subdued voice, I know you probably hate me, but I'm going through a really hard time. I lost my good health insurance when they restructured at work. The rent on my studio went up. I barely have enough for groceries. I was wondering if you could help me out, just until I get back on my feet a little. The audacity was incredible. Still, I played along. How much do you need? Maybe $30,000. I know it's a lot, but I have no one else to turn to. My parents are dealing with Dad's medical stuff. And Brittany, she doesn't even answer me anymore. Sarah, I spend less than that on my mortgage and truck payment combined in a year. So, are you going to help me? Of course not. There was a long silence. Why? If you just said it's not that much money for you. Because you chose Brittany. Because you destroyed our marriage based on her lies. Now live with the consequences. That's not fair. I made a mistake, but I'm trying to fix it. You're not looking for justice. You're looking for money. It's not the same thing. And I hung up. Then I blocked her number. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, I received a call from an unknown number. It was Brittany. She explained that her boyfriend, Gary, had caught her cheating on him with a personal trainer from Gold's Gym and had kicked her out of the house. She was back at her parents' place, who couldn't help her either because the father's medical expenses had depleted their savings. Brittany's voice was syrupy, falsely sweet, unbearable. I know we've had our differences, she began, but I was wondering if you could help us out. Sarah told me you're doing really well. I thought maybe you could support the family a little. Help how? Well, they're behind on the mortgage, medical bills are piling up, and I'm looking for a job, but it's not easy. She estimated her needs, which totaled over $5,000 a month. That's a lot of money, Brittany. I know, but you're doing well now. We're still family in a way. And I was thinking maybe we could come to some kind of agreement. What kind of agreement? Her voice dropped almost to a whisper. You're alone. I am too. And we could help each other out. I could show you how much I appreciate your generosity. Yes, she'd gotten to the point of offering herself in exchange for money after everything she'd done. Quite the proposition. Brittany, I countered. I knew you'd understand. You're a smart man. You know how to recognize a good opportunity when you see one. Perfect, I said. I have a counteroffer. She fell silent. I want you to call Sarah right now and put her on speaker. I want you to confess to her that you lied about everything. Tell her what you did, why you did it. Admit it all, that you tried to seduce me. And because I didn't go along with it, you decided to get revenge by destroying my marriage. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her strained breathing. And if I don't, she finally said with a hint of defiance, then there's no deal. And if I do, maybe I'll think about helping your parents with a small, one-time payment for medical bills, sent directly to the hospital. Nothing for you. She hung up without responding. Days passed. She didn't call back. I suppose she expected me to soften up, to feel guilty or something similar. But no. The only thing I felt was relief. And no, I never called her. I never helped. Sometimes, saying no is the purest act of dignity. I didn't come into this world to be used. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.